Hey guys, welcome back to Young Americans Abroad, your best place for weekly content on young American soccer players playing overseas. My name is Austin.
And my name is Patrick.
And guys, welcome to our show. Well, guys, it's good to be back with you this week. And Pat, we had a, somewhat up and down end to the season. A lot of talking points.
Yeah, certainly. From relegation to Champions League to everything in between, Austin. I mean, it certainly is an interesting time. With the world kind of getting back to normalcy here. Players grinding it out, finishing their club seasons. We have a lot to look forward to here in the summer coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be a big summer. We get to see the USMNT in action in 2 tournaments, which is, not the norm.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. And like you said, Pat, we still got the Champions League final coming up between Christian Pulisic and Zach Steffen.
So, you got the jersey on.
That's right, repping Chelsea. So don't tell Zach that. But no, I think it's going to be a great week. We also got the USMNT friendly coming up on Sunday after the Champions League final. So it's club season ends, but we get right into international play, and that's always fun. So in this episode, since this will be kind of the season finale of YAA, we will talk next week about the Nations League a little bit, but today we want to talk about the big news over in Germany, where one YAA got relegated, and one YAA also got promoted.
Interesting, Austin. And then we'll also talk about Americans' incredible loan and the championship over in England come to a heartbreaking end.
Yeah, and it wouldn't be another week of YAA without another YAA winning a trophy. So, all that and more in today's episode. So to start today, guys, we want to talk about Josh Sargent. So this weekend, Josh started and played 67 minutes for Werder Bremen in their, unfortunate 4-2 loss to Borussia Mönchengladbach. So I guess, Pat, we got to set the stage a little bit for this game. So, going into it, Bremen were in the relegation playoff position. So that's the 16th place in the Bundesliga, 1 point in front of Köln. So essentially they needed to, if they won their game against Gladbach, they were going to be, safe from relegation. I think they could have maybe even jumped Arminia Bielefeld too, depending on their result. But essentially they needed to win to stay out of that automatic relegation position. So they went behind pretty early. It got as bad as 4-0, and then they were able to get 2 goals back. But in the meantime, Köln, we were watching this game, Pat, a little bit. We had our eyes on it because Matt Hoppe was playing in it. And, Köln played tough throughout the game and went ahead in the 71st minute on a goal that was actually called back by VAR due to offsides. So, Bremen were losing the game, but with Köln drawing, they were still going to, eke out in that playoff position. In the 86th minute, Köln broke through and scored that crucial goal that bumped them over Bremen, knocking them into the automatic relegation position. So, just heartbreak. That was with the final 5 minutes to go in the game. I think Bremen were actually in the final 5 minutes of their game as well when that happened. And just you could see after the game when the result was final, just that emotion coming out, especially on Josh Sargent, who there was a lot of photos and videos of him, really just heartbroken and shaken up after the game. So you really just hate to see it, Pat. With one of our players going through something like this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the club where he came over to Europe. He even said in interviews, and we've talked about in the past, he loves the city there. He loves the fans, and the club has just been great to him. And he's really just, taken his game to a pretty solid level there. Obviously, they're not a team that, is going to be leading possession and things like that. More kind of, tracking back, pressing and trying to win the ball that way. But nonetheless, certainly tough, like you said, heartbreaking. And you could just kind of see it, the emotion written on his face. And this is probably the end of his, the end of his Bremen, career here.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, Pat. I think you alluded to this team not being very attacking off camera before we started filming. And
yeah, the pleasure of watching that first half, Austin. It was not fun.
Yeah, it was definitely not a very this Bremen team was just not threatening at all season, and it really just put Josh in a hard spot all year. I think he led their team in goals with 7, and also had 3 assists in 3,000 minutes this year. So it's good to get those minutes. It's good to be the leading goal scorer for your team, but at the end of the day, that's only 7 goals in 3,000 minutes, which for a high level Bundesliga striker, that's not really the rate we want to see. But I think you also said, Pat, this seems like the end of his Bremen career, or at least for the time being. It seems like he's going to be a player that moves to a different club this summer. So I guess, Pat, in this segment, we should definitely take a look at some of those options and kind of evaluate what's next for Josh.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's kind of intriguing, and obviously we've talked about some of the rumors before with the Bundesliga, and he's just that quality player. We definitely know that. But I mean, Stuttgart is intriguing. I know some fans just on Twitter and social media were kind of going back and forth onto where he could fit. I know you also mentioned some interesting clubs as well, but I guess I'm taking it more in the Stuttgart direction, where I just kind of like the obviously Matarazzo there, and what he's done with the team is fantastic. I know, again, you mentioned off camera with potentially the forward, their attacker moving on, but nonetheless, it's just kind of an intriguing and interesting spot. I mean, a team that's really risen pretty quick, and certainly is kind of that a good, I guess, stepping stone in where he can go in his career. But I know there are a few other teams that I'm sure are vying for his services. I just want to make sure he goes to a place where maybe they have a little bit more possession. He has more opportunity, right? Because I think he's a player that is just going to shine and really develop, when he has the ball more and has more of these chances, and they're not maybe just 1 or 2 times a game,
Yeah, I think you hit it right on the head. His next move needs to be to a club that has a higher caliber, has higher caliber supply to him. He's a striker first. I know at Bremen that seemed to be kind of the opposite. He was more of the glue guy up top who kind of worked tirelessly on defense and also dropped back pretty deep to pick up the ball and try and make things happen. But I think with this move, he's got to go to a team that prioritizes him playing that striker number 9 role. Exactly. And I think Stuttgart's a great shout. They played some really free-flowing football this year. Pellegrino Matarazzo has them playing really well, even though they finished in 10th in the Bundesliga. But they had the Bundesliga Rookie of the Season, Silas Waman Gatuka, who's a fantastic player, someone that could really be a great asset beside Josh, helping him
nice.
Get in behind the defense and set up goals for him. So I think that's a great shout, Pat. The other teams that have been rumored with him are Gladbach, Frankfurt, Leverkusen. All of those teams really give me a lot of concern with Josh, just because they have so many established options already. You're talking about a team like Frankfurt, who's got Andre Silva, who scored more goals than Erling Haaland this year in the Bundesliga, which is, he's not going to be pushed out of that starting lineup if
you don't want him to sit the bench, Austin. That's just not. You just, I mean, granted, those teams are amazing to be linked with, but yeah, you want him playing at a high level somewhere, getting consistent minutes, and not, start. I mean, like you said, that's just a good example of somebody that would be hard to displace. So,
right, yeah, I agree. I think one under the radar team, and again, this is just me throwing it out there. I have no inside information. I don't even know if they're, actually looking at Josh, but a team that kind of makes sense for a few different reasons is Wolfsburg. So obviously they finished in that final Champions League spot this year. They have a great striker in Weghorst, who, has really done a good job for them the past few years, consistently in the top 5 in goals scored in the Bundesliga. But behind him, they really don't have too many other options. They have an aging Daniel Ginczek, who to me is a 2 Bundesliga player. I don't really rate him at all. They had Maximilian Philipp on loan this season, who can kind of float around all 3 positions up top. They have another young striker who's out till the winter with a ACL injury. So I think that's a team going into another competition in addition to the Bundesliga is going to, have to strengthen this summer, make some good transfers. And I think they could get Josh Sargent for less than $10 million this summer, which would be
that's a steal, man.
Huge steal. Yeah, exactly. So I think that's a team, we'll see what happens. I've heard they're rumored to higher quality players than Josh, but we think Josh is a high quality player. Just in the right situation, we think he'll flourish more and be that striker we've kind of been wanting to see this whole time.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think it's a great kind of switch here. Talk about another player here that has just a high hopes and a high ceiling here. That's Brenden Aaronson, Austin. Salzburg wrapping up the season there, bagged a few trophies. No big deal, just moving over there, in the starting lineup there.
That's what he does now, Pat. He just wins trophies. What is it, 3 in 8 months now?
Yeah, he's just a collector, man. He's just a collector. But yeah, just tremendous for the 6 or 7 months there. I think he finished now with 7 or 8 goals and 5 assists and 25 appearances there under Marsch. In this last game, just kind of an icing on the cake there, you could say. In a nice 4-0 win, he picked up an assist on the second goal. The ball was played right in the center of the pitch to him. He turned, made a quick turn there. The defenders closed down. It kind of pushed him over, but he's able to get a nice pass, nice through ball through the center backs there, curved around to Berisha there, slotted in the net. He had quite a few goals there in a pretty good campaign. So, nonetheless, he just fit in perfectly with that team. We've said it again and again, and I won't harp too much on it, but just really a match made in heaven there at Salzburg. I know there's some debate. We could talk about the level, compared to MLS with the league, but if you're going over to Europe, you see all the players that they've produced at that club and what they've gone on to do. Brenden is following that roadmap to a T.
Yeah, I honestly agree with you, and I think it'll be really fun to watch him this summer with the USMNT. I just think he's going to be prime. He's in great form right now. I think some of our other players may be a little worn out from the season, where Brenden looked just as chipper as ever. And he's played basically a season and a half now, which is, kind of crazy to think about. So, yeah, I'm really excited to watch him this summer. I think he's going to be a player that just, really makes his mark on the games he's in. And I'm just excited to see him, next year too. I think he's going to just take the next step.
Definitely, Austin. And again, I don't want to get any flack. I'm knocking on wood here. I don't even know if I should be saying this, but
no, you don't want to get any Leon flack.
Oh, Leon flack. No, but his frame, he does look like obviously he's still building muscle, and I'm so happy, knocking on wood, he hasn't had any injuries and things like that, because like you said, Austin, he really has played so much. Coming from the Union, he did get a trophy there, bagged one there, got some in Europe, no big deal now, but he has played a lot. And like you said, he still has such energy. And you saw some of that burst with the national team. And I'm just really excited to see what he can do, with a larger sample size, more games here, all the action that we have from, the tournaments to friendlies to even the qualifiers down the road. It's just a really exciting time for him. So, just a great season to recap, and just hoping for more success for the next year, because I think this next full season he starts, they have another hopefully successful run there. And then I believe, Austin, is it Champions League qualifiers that they're in now?
That's a great question. I'm not 100% sure what the winner in Austria has to go through to get into the Champions League. I think they'd be automatic if they're number one, but that might not be the case. I feel like they played in those qualifiers last year, so that could be the case. We'll have to research that a little bit, Pat. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be fun to watch him progress, and he's still only 20 years old, so he's still very young. It feels like he's been on the scene now for 3 or 4 years, but he's still a very young player. So I think with that, we're going to move over to our third player for today, and that would be Weston McKennie. So let's go back to midweek last week. And, Weston started and played 90 minutes and also had an assist for Juventus in their 2-1 win over Atalanta. So in this game, Weston was able to provide that crucial assist on the first goal there to Dejan Kulusevski. So that put Juventus up in this game. And eventually, Atalanta came back, and then Juventus went ahead again and was able to win the Coppa Italia. So, this was Weston's second trophy on the season. And it was just great to see him celebrating again, like only Weston McKennie can do. And it's just cool, Pat. We got now 2 trophies for a player that we cover in one season, and I think that's pretty cool in a top 5 league too. Brenden Aaronson did it in Austria, but doing it in Italy is no small task.
Yeah, and think of where if he didn't make this move, where he would be. So this is unbelievable, Austin. I mean, it's still very, very difficult for a lot of teams, especially with some of these other cups that they have, along with a grueling season and then European football. But Juventus, for all the you could say falling short of expectations, and this is one of the worst seasons maybe they've had in a while. From a league perspective, they still managed to squeak in Champions League. And they've won some cups. So, I mean, being clutch and winning some of those trophies, I think is really good for this young crop of players. And I don't think it's, again, a full rebuild, like sound the alarms, but just some tinkering, and I think they'll be fine, honestly. And again, all kudos and props to Weston, his development there at the club, this big and this caliber, and it's only going up from here.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, Pat. I think they do have a pretty good team. I think there is a few areas maybe they can improve in, and honestly, I think as hard as it's gonna be to hear, or as much as I hate to say it, I think Andrea Pirlo is just not the coach for that team. I think you need someone like a Massimo Allegri if they get him back. I think he would be a pretty good candidate to come back in and kind of help them regain some of their dominance there in Serie A. But I think what you said, Pat's a perfect segue into their weekend game. So in this game, Weston came off the bench and played the final 32 minutes. So again, Juventus were in a situation where they needed to win the game and also have some help from some other teams to make it back into the Champions League for next year. And, Juventus took care of their end of the deal, winning 4-1 over Bologna. And they got a little bit lucky, and Napoli drew with Hellas Verona 1-1. So that sealed Champions League for them next year, which is a big deal, Pat. We always want our players playing in the best competitions, and just having one of our center pieces of the USMNT playing in Europa League really would have sucked.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. That would have been pretty brutal there, and it's nice to see them kind of pull out, that result. And yeah, I mean, obviously you had some luck go your way too, but sometimes you need that in football. It's a crazy game, Austin. But yeah, I'm just really excited to see where you can kind of go. Obviously, it's great, with the national team tournaments coming up here. But I think Weston was also kind of an interesting point. A lot of tinkering with the lineup, and I think you brought up a good point with the coaching, because you had a lot of shuffling, and I think McKennie, if I'm not mistaken, was kind of more of a sub in the last little bit here.
Yeah, he really was. He started that Coppa Italia game. I think that was a pretty much first 11 for Pirlo. I may be wrong on that, but he was out of the lineup a little bit more at the end of the season, or at least not a regular starter. So that is something to watch. Good point. But I think he did what he needed to do this year. I think at a big club, you can never kind of let off the gas. So he's really going to have to kind of, come back after the summer, recharge and go back to work and really dig in and fight for a place in the team next year, which is good. I think Ronaldo is going to stay, which was another big piece of them staying in the Champions League was him kind of re-upping with Juventus. And I think, like you said, there's a few things they can do to tinker with this team and hopefully get them back to competing for the Champions League, back to competing for Serie A. But again, this is a much better place for Weston than say Schalke. God knows what would have happened. So yeah, I think that's it for Weston this week. Pat, where are we going next?
Yeah, so we're heading over to the English Championship, Austin, with our boy Daryl Dike. So obviously, it was heartbreaking. With the playoff promotion there against Swansea, the second leg there, they drew 1-1, so they lost an aggregate 2-1, and obviously, Swansea goes up, and it's kind of sadness here for Barnsley. But, nonetheless, I think you could look at the silver lining and what DK was able to do and accomplish. Very impressive within the 19 appearances he had, coming on loan to a new league, new environment, especially a pressure situation, right? Where, I don't even think they were really, towards the top there, like the 4 or 5 to begin with when he joined. And then DK, scored some goals, got caught on fire. The team made a big push and a great run. And I think he'll still go down as a very important, club, kind of almost, still kind of that hero. Obviously, he didn't end up getting that promotion win, but nonetheless, I think he really did make an impact in the eyes of the Barnsley fan and really raised his stock, Austin, across Europe.
Yeah, and I thought once they scored that goal in this game, what a script it would have been for him scoring the game tying goal and kind of getting them back into getting them to believe again, so to speak.
Oh, yeah.
I just was waiting for something to come to him in the box, and unfortunately it didn't happen. But yeah, I think like you said, he created such a legend for himself at the club. I mean, he had that awesome bicycle kick after scoring however many other goals he scored for them, and to kind of finish it off that way was definitely a special moment. So yeah, I think the big question now, Pat, is where does he go from here? He still has a contract with Orlando City. Sounds like he's going to go back there for the forthcoming future. He's with the USMNT, at least training with them. I think he's going to play either in this upcoming friendly or the Costa Rica friendly, because he wasn't selected for the Nations League. So, he'll have some time, I guess, after the end of the season to be with USMNT. I'm sure he'll come back and take some time off before maybe playing in MLS again. But, what do we think is going to happen with him? I know we've talked about this a little bit in past episodes, but do we think he's gonna stay for the rest of the MLS season and then make a move? Do we think he's going to make a move this summer? What are you feeling, Pat?
So that's interesting. So right now, I think, and I guess to start with, not being selected, obviously it's tough. I know Berhalter mentioned in terms of form, and I know there's some debates between Sargent, some of the other players selected, and his form. Sabichu obviously was a big, direct comparison there to the kind of player. But yeah, I think still just being included on the roster, and Berhalter even said, or included in that for the players to travel, barring some injuries with other players, that will probably happen. Very rare to see, no injuries, for our national team players. But yeah, like just to see him traveling, getting experience, whether it's the friendlies or not, I don't see him moving in the next, few weeks to a month here. It's definitely tough. I could definitely see him kind of maybe finishing out, this MLS season and then making a move, but also kind of wary too, because if he doesn't, replicate that form, does he kind of, is he almost forgotten again? But I don't know. It seems like a lot's going on in the summer in terms of the national team and everything else. I'm not sure if a move will materialize. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think we're also forgetting he could play in the Gold Cup. So maybe he gets called up to the Gold Cup. He doesn't. He has some time maybe to himself before that, because the Gold Cup's I think early July it starts. So you're talking about ending Nations League in mid-June and then waiting a few weeks to start Gold Cup. So it could be him just playing with the USMNT this summer and Orlando City letting him kind of do that, and then maybe they put a trade in or a transfer in the works over this period. Who knows? He could break out at the Gold Cup and be the top scorer and increase his value even more. So
that's a very good point.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of ways this could go. It's really hard to predict with him. I think this will be a great case study, to be completely honest, because it's a player that came from college, got drafted, played well in MLS, moved to Europe and England for a brief spell and did really well. So now we got to see kind of what the value is for a player that's kind of made this path. And I think you're going to see a little bit more of these loans from MLS teams. I think if they can get some of that established credit overseas, some of these players, and go to some leagues where they can help some of these teams that need some short-term coverage after the MLS season. It could be a great way for these MLS teams to increase the value of their players. So I'm just really, I don't know, Pat. I don't have a good feeling, so I kind of put you on the spot there. But
yeah, there's so much going on. There's so much going on, and almost your comparison reminds me of kind of Donovan with his Everton stints, but obviously didn't end up playing over there. But nonetheless, I think it's interesting, kind of the case study here. We'll have to kind of monitor and see. But again, I think Berhalter put it best. He still has long term in the plans in the future. I think DK will be a great asset, especially when we're playing certain teams, certain tactics we need to implement, because he does have a specific style. So he's definitely not going away, and I'm sure he'll just use this as more motivation and fuel the fire.
Yeah, for sure. Could you imagine playing some of these CONCACAF opponents with him and maybe even Josie Altidore up top?
There'll be 4 Costa Rican and Honduran players on his back, and he'll just be shoving them off.
I love it. And so I guess with that, we'll move to our final player for today. And this is a player that we haven't covered in a little while, just because he's 25. So we cover players 25 and younger. This is one that we feel like is just kind of aged out of our normal YAA
graduate, Austin.
Our YAA group, pretty much, and that would be Julian Green. So Julian Green, if you don't know, plays for Greuther Fürth in the 2 Bundesliga, and this weekend helped them secure promotion back to the Bundesliga. So big congrats to him. And he was very vital in securing this promotion. He actually scored the goal that tied the game up this weekend. And, they were able to win the game after coming back down a man. Pretty shocking to come back down from 2-0 or to come back from 2-0 down and, only have 10 men that whole time. It's pretty crazy. So, it's just cool to see Julian Green persevere. If you don't know his story, he was at Bayern Munich, got a few minutes in some games here and there, but really never broke through with them. Went to Hamburg. Actually, it sounds like the team got fined because he didn't play. So pretty crazy. That happened. Went back to the Bundesliga. Got loaned or sold to Stuttgart. I believe he got loaned and then sold to him. And then Stuttgart loaned him finally to Fürth after he didn't really break through with them. So he's been now with Fürth for, I think, 3 years and really became one of their top players this year, Pat. Just became a very consistent center attacking mid for them. And, had 9 goals and 3 assists on the year this year. 2 assists on the year this year. And was rated the 12th highest player by FootMob in the 2 Bundesliga. So was just a really, really solid contributor to a team that had a lot of success this year. And it's just really good to see.
Yeah, he has had such a long, tumultuous journey, and it's great to see him, with all this hard work come to fruition. And, didn't want to go too long down this rabbit hole, Austin. But it almost reminds me of just kind of he could have taken that Freddie Adu turn, right? Where, he had all the hype with Bayern, the US, way back when we were in the World Cup.
Good Lord.
He just had such a high stock, and then, took some tumbles, and he could have gone down to, a player that's, playing semi-pro or with the Rowdies or 4th or 5th German division team. And he really just kind of stuck to the basics, worked on his craft, honed it in a solid 2 Bundesliga, which is no, easy task. And it's great to see, again, him reward back up with the Bundesliga and being the 12th ranked there. There's a lot of players there in a pretty competitive league with a few, teams obviously vying for that Bundesliga spot. So Definitely a great accomplishment then for Julian.
Yeah, and he's just become such a consistent player, or just more consistent player. I think when I think of Julian Green after watching him for the past few years, he's just a very technical player. That's something that helped him break through at Bayern and get those minutes that he got, because he can really play when he's at his best game. With some of the best players. To be completely honest, we saw him against France. Looked pretty good scoring that goal right before they won the World Cup. And it's just he's a very technical, tidy player. I think in the past the thing that really held him back was his lack of athleticism and just lack of physique. He's not the biggest player. He's somewhat smaller, and I think he's done a really good job of kind of compensating for those deficiencies and really just becoming a playmaking type player. That's really kind of what he's good at. He's not afraid to shoot in and around the box too. I think we've seen that from some of the U.S. games as well. And definitely the first games that I've watched, that's kind of been the narrative as well. So it's just really cool, Pat. I think to end this, he got called up for the friendly against Switzerland. So we'll see.
Well deserved.
Yeah, very well deserved. So I think we'll see if he plays a role in that game. It sounds like he may be just like Daryl Dike, another player that kind of travels with the team for Nations League. But if he doesn't do that, then he's definitely an option for the Gold Cup later in the summer. And it'll be interesting to kind of see what Greg Berhalter does with that team. If he makes it more of a domestic-based team with a lot of the MLS players that we saw, maybe some of those Olympic team players get called up since no Olympics this summer, or maybe he does kind of a blend of both and gets some overseas players to come over as well and play in that tournament. So it's just great to see, Pat. You love to see our players succeed, and Julian deserves it a lot more than most of our players, to be completely honest.
Yeah, and I think just the last bit I was going to say is he's just a player that could be a great asset, kind of the mentor, maybe for young players. And I'm not expecting him to be a focal point, in that midfield, but somebody that can come on for, different games, change the dynamic, maybe inject some energy at the end of the game, or, seeing him in, maybe tournaments like the Gold Cup or anything like that. I think he's just a valuable player to have, the journey that he's experienced, and kind of being that, that advisor. I think, to some of the younger players could be great when they're going through down moments.
Yeah, great point. And he is one of the only players with World Cup experience. So definitely could prove valuable at some point here in the near future. So I think with that now, let's head over to Quick Kicks.
All right, guys. So this is the season finale here. Obviously, we'll have more content in the summer, but this is my favorite part. And I know we won't maybe have this as much until the next season when the clubs come back. And I hope it's yours as well at this point, right? I mean, it's been so long. But it's none other than Quick Kicks.
So you could test Dwayne Miller. It's Altidore over the wall! And that one is in! Josie Altidore from a long way out! The opening goal for the United States!
So to start Quick Kicks today, we have Christian Pulisic. So Christian played 90 minutes, and had an assist for Chelsea in their 2-1 loss to Aston Villa. So Chelsea got the loss on the day, but they did, win out in the Champions League battle and secured 4th position with Tottenham beating Leicester. So, another American, just like Weston McKennie, who on the final day of their league calendar was really sweating it out for Champions League football next year. But good to see that, Christian Pulisic will be playing there next year.
Yeah, I was worried for a little bit. I was thinking they would have to rely on the Man City Champions League final, but that's great news. But switching to Serginho Dest over at Barcelona for the final match of the season, started and played the full 90 in a 1-0 win against Eibar.
And going over to Germany, we have Gio Reyna, who subbed on and played the final 11 minutes for Dortmund in their 3-1 win over Leverkusen. So, we got to give a shout out, I guess, to one player who retired after this game. One of our favorite players, so that's Sven Bender. So,
hey.
Yeah.
I get a cake, Austin.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I actually didn't even know that. That's pretty crazy.
Farewell. Fond farewell.
Fond farewell. it's switching to Spain here with Yunus Musa. So he subbed on in the 80th minute in a 0-0 draw against Huesca. So, I mean, all said, 32 appearances for the young 18-year-old with over 1,500 minutes. Half of those about starts. So a lot to improve on, but definitely, great starting point here in his career.
Yeah. And going back to Germany, we have Matt Hoppe. So Matt started and played all 90 minutes. Actually played 89 minutes, in Schalke's 1-0 loss to Köln. So Matt looked great in this game. I really liked what I saw, but unfortunately, Köln were able to pull out that last-minute win and, at least give themselves a chance to fight for staying in the Bundesliga. So, yeah.
Yeah, certainly tough for Matt here. But yeah, again, obviously switching here to France, Timo Weah, our boy, was on the bench. He didn't play, but nonetheless, a pretty solid season. He had all those injuries and marked injuries up and down, and his Lille, his team here, finally has won the French league, in Ligue 1. So the first one since I think 2011. It's been a while. PSG dominance, and it's just really great to see. Weah was really involved. I think he had 28 appearances or so. And it's really only the club's 4th league title. So just great to be a part of that.
Yeah, and the other thing Tim was really involved in was the celebrations. So if you haven't seen, go check out his Instagram, especially on the day we're filming this on Monday. It's been a lit experience.
That's awesome.
So yeah, going over to Italy now, we have Brian Reynolds, who subbed on and played the second half for Roma in their 2-2 draw. So good to see Brian getting some more minutes. Roma finished in the Europa Conference League position. So that's like the third tier of European football now. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. I'm still kind of learning how that's going to all work with the Europa League and Champions League. But nonetheless, Roma will be playing European football next year.
It's interesting. I guess more game time for him. So yeah, that's intriguing. But
with Jose.
Yeah, that's right. Ooh, we'll have to watch that. But switching over to talk about Emmanuel Sabi, ending here, played with 12 minutes off the bench here in Odense's 4-0 win in the Danish playoffs there against Horsens.
Yeah, and going over to England, we have Cameron Carter-Vickers. So like Daryl Dike, Cameron Carter-Vickers was involved in the promotion playoffs there in the championship. They won their first round game against Brentford 1-0. So going into this game, they were feeling good, feeling high, spirits were high. But CCV started and played 90 minutes in this game, picked up the assist for their first goal, but Brentford came back and won the game 3-1. So Brentford through the finals. We'll have to see what happens with CCV now, if he stays at Bournemouth or if he moves to yet another team. But it sounds like Bournemouth really enjoyed what they got from him this year, and I have a feeling they may really try and move for him this summer. So hoping for the best for CCV. Definitely a player to keep your eye on, who's had a lot of minutes now in the championship and looked good this season. So yeah. Yeah,
and tough. DK and CCV there in the championship. But
yeah,
heading over to Belgium here, we're talking about Mark McKenzie first, and he played the full 90 against 2-1 win against Club Brugge there. But yeah, I think it was great. I mean, McKenzie was the highest rated player as well of the match per Sofa score there. So definitely great to see him make that impact. And then also in that game, Bruges are they won the league, they're the champions. Again, but Ethan Horvath, my boy, finally got a start after a while in the full 90. So unfortunately, they did lose 2-1. But it's nice to kind of see him end there with a start. And he's another player we have to keep our eye on to where he goes next.
Yeah, and he's called up to the USMNT squad,
right.
I believe, for Nations League and the friendlies. So he'll be he'll be there probably starting that Switzerland game with Zach Steffen playing the day before in the Champions League. So yeah, exciting stuff, Pat. We'll get to see your guy again. And going over to Germany, we have Justin Che. So Justin Che played all 90 minutes in Bayern 2's 1-0 loss this weekend. Was at fault for the goal. It was his error that led to it. So didn't see footage of it, so gonna have to kind of find that out and check that out. But nonetheless, he's playing with that 2 team there for Bayern. Looks like they're going to get relegated, so not really sure what that means for them next year. But all in all, good to see him continuing to get minutes.
Definitely, Austin. And heading back to Belgium, talk about Matt Miazga. So I guess, not surprised, kind of a Miazga type of fashion to end the season. Started and got a red card in the 13th minute. So kind of rough there, brutal, and they did end up losing 1-0. But nonetheless, they finished in Europa qualification spot there. And he had over 2,100 minutes and pretty productive season under Vincent Kompany. So maybe we'll see him stay with Anderlecht. It'll be kind of interesting to watch that as well. Somebody that has really been that forefront of the Chelsea alone army.
Yeah. I think staying at Anderlecht might be a good move for him. I think learning from Vincent Kompany, playing consistently, what's not to like? Playing in Europe, yeah, I think that'd be a good move. And going back to Germany, we have Quincy Butler. So Quincy had an assist for Hoffenheim 2 this weekend, and it was a nice little play from him. So we're keeping our eye on him. He's definitely one that could kind of break out here in the near future.
That's awesome. And talking about switching gears to St. Polten here with Servania and Taylor Booth. So first, Taylor Booth started and played 60 minutes. And then Servania came on and played the last 2 minutes off the bench. And unfortunately, they did lose 1-0 to Hartberg.
Yeah, and going to Denmark now, we have Haji Wright. So Haji started and scored a goal for Sunder Jersky in their 2-1 win over Horsens last week. So good to see him back on the score sheet. Has had a strong season over there in Denmark. And we'll see what the summer brings. I'm not sure if he'll be on the move or if he'll stay there at his team, but good to see. And our final player for today, Pat, we got one more, and that's Jacobo Reyes. So Jacobo plays at Monterrey right now, plays with their U20 team, and actually helped their U20 team win the championship there for the U20s over in Liga MX. So congrats to Jacobo. A really talented attacker, someone that has kind of flown under the radar since that U17 team he was a part of a little while back. But nonetheless, congrats to him. And that's all for episode today, guys. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channel down below.
And don't forget to check out social media, Instagram, Twitter, all that great content with a lot to look forward to here. So you don't want to miss any of that.
Yeah, and this episode's also available in podcast form. So check us out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. Make sure you like us, follow us, leave us a review. Giving us those reviews always helps us improve the quality of the show. So Pat, I guess it's, with this being the end of our episode, if you thought this week with all the Champions League qualification, promotion, relegation was a big week, get ready for next week.
That's right. We got two Americans facing off, Austin. Couldn't be more excited to kind of see the outcome. But yeah, I mean, that will kind of be the icing to the cake of this great season with the influx of American players over in Europe. I think you saw that great picture or GIF that's been posted out on social media with all of the trophies and different American players in Europe, with different successes. So just a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, and then we got the USMNT friendly on Sunday. So right into international, international football, international soccer, and then the Nations League next week. So I think we're going to do kind of an episode covering that friendly a little bit, and then also looking ahead to the Nations League early next week. So be on the lookout for that. And I think that leaves us with only one thing left to say, Pat. Do you want to say it this time?
Oh, I don't know. For the last episode, Austin, I got to throw it back to you because you got to end us on a high.
All right. If you insist. And that is, one day we will win the World Cup.